Hello kids, Daddy's here. Right now, Daddy will show you a psychological drama film from 2011 titled Shame. Be a good kid and subscribe to Daddy's channel. Spoilers ahead, watch out. This film tells about a man named Brandon. Brandon is a nympho and has frequent bang with call girls. He has been spending lots of his money just for doing that. One day, Brandon makes eye contact with a woman wearing an engagement ring on the subway during his morning commute. She initially reciprocates but becomes uncomfortable, until he gets down from the train and decides to follow her. When they exit, she disappears into the crowd. Despite the fact of his banging addiction, Brandon is a young successful executive living in New York City. He sits in a packed meeting room as he sees his computer and hard disk taken away. He looks worried about it, then he enters to his boss's room, David. As Brandon begins to ask him, "Do you know what's going on with my computer?" And he replies, "They took it, some kind of virus." He is the kind of guy who can cover his fanatical addiction in front of people. He only satisfies himself when he's alone in his apartment by renting a call girl or watching Pondy after work. He is living in a hell that he has furnished and maintained himself. Even ecstatically, his mind is only about his fantasy with women. In a chance, he always thinks about the dirty thing with his female colleague. Beside all the fact, he is normally like other people. Sometimes later, he spends his time with his colleagues after work. One moment, Brandon and his married boss go to the bar and meet a beautiful woman. As David tries to flirt with her by asking her to dance. Meanwhile, Brandon doesn't seem interested. He even refuses that blonde's friend to dance. Deep inside of his heart, he wants to taste that blonde woman so bad. When he takes off from the club and returns to home, that blonde offers him a ride and he accepts it. Later on, he makes love on a back alley with her. Brandon has been ignoring calls from his sister, Scifi, a lounge singer. He is surprised when he arrives at his apartment and is startled to find her sister in his shower, thinking it may have been a burglar. Scifi has a few gigs in the city and asks to stay for a couple days. He feels disturbed by her presence. David approaches Brandon to ask him to hunt the club girl tonight as he refuses by asking him back to see his sister's show. Later, Brandon and David watch Scifi perform New York, New York in a bar, which makes Brandon emotional. She is such an amazing singer with a golden voice, and she's attracting everyone's attention there. David introduces himself with Brandon's sister, Scifi, as he begins to flirt her and gives her a compliment about her performance. On the way back home by cab, David and Scifi kiss passionately in front of Brandon, who looks uncomfortable to see what they do. As it happens, David makes love with his sister in his room. He looks upset and wants to vent his anger at the fact that David is his boss. He can't even do anything. Brandon doesn't want to hear. He can't resist himself anymore and decides to run off from his apartment. He is jogging past the neon lights of New York City. At work, David tells Brandon that his computer has back but it's too dirty, a lot of adult things in it. As a boss and his friend, David thinks that Brandon wouldn't do bad anything like that and claims someone else maybe messed around with his account. Brandon goes on a date with coworker Marianne, who often he fantasized about. As they start to talk about their childhood and family, he acts so innocent but the fact that he always rents a hooker. It concludes that Marianne is recently separated and believes in commitment, while Brandon dislikes the idea of marriage and admits that his relationships never last longer than 4 months. Afterward, he takes her off by walking together to the subway. They seem fun together. Before leave, he asks her for another date. She accepts it and they go home separately. That night, Scifi discovers Brandon playing alone in the bathroom. He attacks her and accuses her of spying on him. He leans over her, pushes her down onto the sofa and says, "Why did you come here?" The following day, after work, he brings Marianne into a place. It shows that he rents a luxe hotel room for Marianne. She takes his hand and leads him to the bed as she begins to kiss him smoothly. She takes off her dress but he can't get an erection and it's so strange. After that, Marianne puts her dress on and leaves him. What a freak, man. His banging addiction makes him unable to have a normal relationship with women. He is upset and tells Scifi that David has a family and asks her to leave. He also says that she is a parasite in his life. He throws her off. His addiction is getting worse. Brandon goes to a bar and flirts with a woman, describing explicitly what he would do to her. She is close to succumbing when her boyfriend intervenes, then he tells him his fantasy about his girlfriend. as he becomes crazy and laughs in his face. After he leaves, the boyfriend follows and brutally beats him. When he is barred from another club, he goes to a nearby gay bar and is serviced by a man to satisfy him. To satisfy himself more and more, he stops into the apartment where he can put his wild habit with 2 women at once. At the climax, his addiction turns into pain and anguish. Afterward, he frantically calls Sissy, but she doesn't answer the phone. He becomes more panicked and runs off to his apartment. Arriving home, he finds Sissy fainted in the bathroom floor covered in blood. She survives and he comforts her in hospital, rests his head next to hers as he feels blessed that she survives. After leaving, he walks until he collapses, sobbing, in the rain. He has been tired of his banging addiction and wants to stop. On the subway, Brandon sees the woman with the engagement ring again that he used to follow. He makes eye contact with her. She stands up, ready to exit the train at an approaching station, and she smiles at him. And Brandon doesn't take his eyes off her, whether he will maintain his resolve or succumb to his destructive nature. That's all for today, kids. Help Daddy by like and subscribe. See you on the next videos.